Oh, good evening. I am Councillor Stuart Gawley, Chair of the Personnel Committee, and I am joined by the following members of the committee today. Councillors B. Aloko, Vice Chair, and Anthony Amafarage and Matt Shakespeare. Sarah Clark is the Professional Officer who will be advising the meeting, and Sadie Owen is the Clerk. You're also present. I've forgotten your name. I do apologise.
Hi, I'm Samantha Hodson. I'm the Talent Attraction Manager.
Thank you. And author of the report.
Author of the report.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Apologies for that. So item 1 on the agenda is apologies. And I believe we have received apologies only from Councillor Jeff Brooks.
Yep, that's correct.
And no other people were expected to attend. Item 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Anyone got any declarations of interest? No? Perfect. Nothing here. Good. In that case, we will move swiftly on to item 3, and I believe it's over to yourself, Sarah, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's actually
actually Sam Hodson will introduce the report, and yes, cool. I'll hand over to Sam.
Over to you, Sam. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Hi. So we're bringing this report as we had the approval in March to recruit to 2 executive director roles. And following a rigorous interview process, which we have outlined in the report, we have appointed to both the executive director role for adult social services and to the executive director role for children and family services. So we are asking for the committee to make the appointments as recommended in the report, that Paul Coe be appointed to the DAS, so the Director of Adult Social Services, as of the 13th of September, and Anne-Marie to be given the statutory role of Director of Children's Services as of the 16th of October. And we are also asking that in that interim phase, before Anne-Marie comes on board, that Paul also holds the DCS responsibility on an interim basis. There is just one thing to note from the report, just for record, that in the executive summary, point 4.4, there was just a slight amendment in that actually it is not set out in paragraph 3.1.3. It is actually set out in paragraph 1.3, part 11 of the Constitution, that actually this committee appoint to those roles.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions from the floor? Councillor Aloku.
Thank you, Chair. Not a question really, but more like a comment. And firstly, thanks for the report, but I think it's kind of a discussion that we had quite briefly, is that if the summary of the process could have been attached to it, so we can be clear to the committee the process that you've gone through, which you've gone through without a doubt, which sets out what happened, who was shortlisted, who got selected, just to give us a flavor of really what happened. So we're not just kind of like rubber stamping what's been given to us. There's no evidence to back up the report that's been done here. So maybe if there's something, it can be attached and maybe submitted, but that's really just a comment from my side.
Thank you.
I think just in relation to that, I suppose that there are separate functions here in terms of the recruitment process, which actually is detailed in the Constitution, but also in legislation, and kind of reserves to the executive the ability to veto a potential candidate. So I think certainly we can include more details, but there may be some limits on some of that kind of sort of specific details about candidates. But I think we can probably include more details about the process that is undertaken. Yeah. But I think that ability to make the appointment sits with the executive, and then it is for this committee, in effect, to make the appointment to those statutory posts. So they almost sit side by side, but they're complementary. So I think just to be clear about the different processes.
Yeah, I think we understand that. It's not the detail, but sorry. Well, given it's just a few of us, but then we're streaming. I think we clearly understand that, but it's just to give some flavor to what, what's the process. We're not in the details of, the CV of this person or what it looks like, really just a summary of the process that, the short list from what to what this person was selected. And therefore, it's come to this committee for approval. We've got to approve something. It's got to be some meat behind what we're looking at. So not too much, not the details. So we're not involved in the recruitment process, like you rightly said, but we're just approving the appointment, which has gone through a process that we can have a bit more detail on, just to be attached to the final report, if you like.
I mean, a quick question for me really is just around like what were the kind of application numbers like for both of the roles off the top of your head, just roughly?
Yeah, so the application numbers did vary sort of quite considerably actually between the two roles. So we had a vast amount of interest for the children and families role. So we had, I believe, around 13 applicants that made the long list. We then reduced that to around 8 for the short list. And we then interviewed children and families. I believe it was 4 candidates we interviewed for the children and families. We actually had less sort of on the numbers for the adult social care. So I believe we were looking at around 7 at the long list phase, and we went down to 3 for interview. And we reduced it to 2 to the final interview, because on the first day of the interviews, actually one of the candidates wasn't quite strong enough. So it did reduce to 2 on the final days of interviews, because they go through a 2-day process for interviews in addition to sort of the previous stages.
Okay, so fairly positive then in terms of numbers, which is good to hear.
Yeah,
Good.
we had a good amount of interest in the roles, definitely.
Yeah, that's good, because it gives you a good pot of people to kind of benchmark against, doesn't it? And they're these 2 roles are vital roles in the organisation, and important to get the right talent. So that's good to hear. And Councillor Amrafaraj.
Just a point to kind of support Councillor Loco's point that, okay, yes, can we have some more information with this report? I agree with that. Just a question is like to understand, since at least one of the candidate, I don't want to name them, but they are currently working, right? Poncos, for example. Would that be considered as an internal transfer, or was the process to hire personnel for this role was followed as a completely independent or the same as the external candidates?
I can answer that question. So we actually appointed a recruitment partner, an external company, to support us with this recruitment, partly because we were aware that we would have internal applicants for both roles. So we actually sort of handed over, if you like, the initial part of the candidate selection to an external agency who then brought forward their own candidates as well. So it was absolutely the same process, whether they were internal or external candidates. And the numbers that I've given you include internal and external candidates across both roles. And the process was exactly the same.
Thank you.
Good, cool. Thank you. I think the feedback I've had is that obviously the portfolio holders sat on the interview panels for both of the interviews and have all had positive feedback around kind of the applicants that have been selected and appointed, which is really positive. I think Councillor Brooks and Councillor Macrae sat on the adult social services role, and Councillor Dillon and Councillor Codlin on the Director of Children's Services role. So it's really positive to have had their kind of feedback and the fact that they fully support these appointments as well, which is good. In that case, any kind of final questions at all? No? Cool. In that case, can I have a proposer for the recommendations? And the recommendations are kind of threefold. 1, to designate Paul Coe as the Director of Adult Social Services on a permanent basis, effective from the 13th of September 23. The second recommendation is to designate Anne-Marie Dodds as the Director of Children's Services on a permanent basis effective on the 16th of October 2023, unless she can assume the role earlier. And the third and final bit is to agree that the post of Director of Children's Services be held on an interim basis by the Executive Director for People, Adult Social Care until the 16th of October or until the new post holder commences. So obviously that will be Paul Coe until Anne-Marie Dodds starts.
I'll propose it.
Happy to propose. Councillor Shakespeare. Happy to second be Councillor Loco. Excellent. All those in favour? Excellent. So that's unanimous. Great stuff. Thank you for that. We move on to item 5, which is date of the next meeting. And that is the 16th of January 2024, which is not that long to wait, scarily. Perfect. That is all of the business that we've had for this evening. Thank you to anyone that's watched online and for everyone present in the chamber. Thank you very much.
Thank you.